May 1940. Europe was waiting for the storm. 4 months, the world watched as Nazi Germany prepared for its next move. Poland had already fallen. Britain and France had declared war. Millions of soldiers stood ready across the Western Front. But something unexpected happened. A nation considered one of the strongest military powers on Earth collapsed. Not in years, not in months, but in just 6 weeks. France, the country that had defeated Germany in the First World War, was defeated by Hitler's armies in a campaign that shocked the world. The German victory became known as Blitzkrieg, the Lightning War. A revolutionary style of warfare using tanks, aircraft, speed, and communication to overwhelm enemies before they could react. But the real story is far more complicated. Because France did not fall simply because Germany was stronger. The truth behind France's defeat was a combination of outdated strategies, dangerous assumptions, political failures, military mistakes, and one of the boldest attacks in modern warfare. This is the story of why France fell in 6 weeks. Chapter 1. The Memory of World War I. To understand France's collapse in 1940, we must go back more than 20 years. The First World War. Between 1914 and 1918, France experienced one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history. Millions died. Entire cities were destroyed. And the battlefield became a nightmare of trenches, artillery, and endless defensive warfare. For France, victory came at an unimaginable cost. The country survived, but it was traumatized. A generation of young French men had been lost. The lesson France learned from World War I was simple. Defense wins wars. The French military believed that the next major war would look similar. Huge armies would attack. Defensive positions would stop them. And prepared fortifications would protect France. This belief shaped everything, including France's greatest defensive project, the Maginot Line. Chapter 2. The Maginot Line, France's fortress. After World War I, France decided it needed protection from Germany. The solution was a massive defensive system built along the eastern border. Named after French Minister of War André Maginot, the Maginot Line was one of the most advanced military defenses ever created. It contained underground bunkers, heavy artillery, anti-tank weapons, machine gun positions, living quarters for thousands of soldiers. It was not just a wall. It was an underground city. Some sections had elevators, hospitals, kitchens, and electric generators. France believed that if Germany attacked again, the Maginot Line would stop them. And at first glance it made sense. Germany had invaded France twice in modern history. The French wanted to prevent it from happening again. But there was one major problem. The Maginot Line did not cover the entire border. It ended near the Ardennes forest. French commanders believed the Ardennes was impossible for a large modern army to cross. The forest was considered too difficult, too rough, too slow. They thought no serious attack would come from there. And that assumption would become one of the biggest mistakes in military history. Chapter 3. Hitler's Gamble. By 1940, Adolf Hitler wanted to destroy France. But Germany had a problem. A direct attack through Belgium would repeat the strategy used in World War I. The Allies expected it. French and British forces were ready. German generals knew a traditional invasion could become another deadly trench war. Then came a risky idea. A plan developed by German strategist Erich von Manstein. Instead of attacking where France expected, Germany would attack through the Ardennes, the forest that France believed was impossible to cross. Many German commanders doubted the plan. Even German generals feared sending thousands of tanks through difficult terrain. But Hitler approved it. It was a massive gamble. If it failed, Germany's main army could be trapped. But if it succeeded, France could collapse before it even understood what happened. Chapter 4. May 10, 1940. The attack begins. On May 10, 1940, Germany launched its attack. German forces invaded Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. This was exactly what the Allies expected. France and Britain believed Germany was repeating the same strategy from 1914. So they moved their best forces north into Belgium. Hundreds of thousands of Allied soldiers advanced. They believed they were meeting the main German attack. But they were moving directly into Hitler's trap. While Allied armies moved north, German armored divisions were secretly racing through the Ardennes. Thousands of tanks. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Supported by aircraft. Moving faster than anyone thought possible. The impossible was happening. The Ardennes was not stopping Germany. It was protecting Germany. Because the Allies never expected the attack. Chapter 5. The Power of Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg was not just about tanks. The real weapon was speed. Traditional armies fought in slow movements. Commanders gave orders. Messages traveled. Units waited. But Germany created a new method. Tanks, aircraft, infantry, and communication worked together. German commanders used radios inside tanks. This allowed them to react instantly. When they found weakness, they attacked. When they faced resistance, they moved around it. Their goal was not to destroy every enemy unit. Their goal was to break the enemy's ability to think, to create confusion, panic, collapse. The French army had many tanks. In fact, France actually had some tanks that were technically better than German models. But France used them differently. French tanks were often spread among infantry units. Germany concentrated tanks into powerful armored groups called panzer divisions. The difference was not only technology, it was strategy. Chapter 6. The moment France realized the disaster. By mid-May 1940, the situation became catastrophic. German forces reached the Meuse River. The French believed they had time to organize a defense. They were wrong. German engineers quickly built bridges. German aircraft attacked defensive positions. German tanks crossed. Within days, Germany had broken through. The German army was now behind Allied forces. The French and British armies in Belgium were suddenly threatened with encirclement. The plan France had prepared for years was failing. The Maginot Line was still standing. French soldiers were still fighting. But the main battle was already lost. The war had moved around them.
Chapter 7. The collapse of the French command structure. The German breakthrough was not just a military defeat. It was a psychological collapse. For years, France had prepared for another long war. A slow war. A defensive war. A war where armies would fight behind strong positions and gradually wear each other down. But Germany created something completely different. A war of movement. A war where decisions had to be made within hours. And this exposed one of France's biggest weaknesses. Its command system. The French military was organized around strict control. Orders moved from commanders at the top, down through layers of officers, before reaching soldiers on the battlefield. It was a system designed for stability, not speed. Meanwhile, German commanders were encouraged to take initiative. If a local officer saw an opportunity, they could act quickly. This difference became deadly. On the battlefield, seconds mattered. A delay of one day could mean losing an entire region. And France was always reacting. Germany was always moving. Chapter 8. The myth of German superiority. For decades, people believed Germany won because its army was simply more advanced. But the reality is more interesting. The French military was not weak. France had hundreds of thousands of experienced soldiers, strong artillery, modern tanks, powerful air force, defensive positions. The French Char B-1 tank was heavily armored and extremely powerful. In some situations, it could defeat German tanks easily. So why did France lose? Because wars are not won by individual weapons. They are won by strategy. Germany understood how to combine every part of its military. Tanks created breakthroughs. Aircraft destroyed resistance. Infantry followed and secured territory. Communication connected everything. France had powerful pieces. But Germany knew how to play the entire game. Chapter 9. The race to the English Channel. By late May 1940, German forces reached one of the most important points of the campaign, the English Channel. The German army had cut off hundreds of thousands of British and French soldiers in Belgium and northern France. The Allied armies were trapped. Their backs were against the sea. A disaster was unfolding. The British Expeditionary Force, along with French and Belgian troops, had only one option: escape. The evacuation point was a small French port city, Dunkirk. Chapter 10. Dunkirk. The miracle evacuation. At Dunkirk, nearly 400,000 Allied soldiers waited. They were exhausted, surrounded, running out of supplies. German forces were approaching. Many believed the British army was finished. Then something unexpected happened. The German advance slowed. Hitler ordered his armored divisions to pause near Dunkirk. Historians still debate the reasons. Some German commanders worried about tank losses. Others believed aircraft could destroy the trapped army. Whatever the reason, the pause gave Britain time. The British launched Operation Dynamo, a massive evacuation effort. Military ships, civilian boats, fishing vessels, private yachts. Thousands of ordinary people crossed the English Channel to rescue soldiers. The beaches of Dunkirk became one of the most famous moments of World War II. Hundreds of thousands escaped, but they left behind weapons, vehicles, and equipment. Britain had saved its army, but France was now alone. Chapter 11. The Final Days of France. After Dunkirk, Germany continued south. The French army was exhausted. The government was losing control. Millions of civilians became refugees, escaping the advancing German army. Roads were filled with people carrying whatever they could. A nation that had once expected victory was now facing defeat. On June 14, 1940, German forces entered Paris. The French capital fell without a major battle. The symbol was devastating. The Eiffel Tower stood above the city, but the Nazi flag now flew over France. Chapter 12. Why did France surrender? On June 22, 1940, France signed an armistice with Germany. The fighting had lasted only 6 weeks. A country that had fought Germany for years in World War I was defeated in a matter of weeks. But surrender was not caused by one single mistake. It was the result of many failures. France underestimated Germany's strategy. France trusted outdated ideas of warfare. French leaders expected a repeat of World War I. Germany created a completely new battlefield. The French army was prepared for the last war. Germany was prepared for the next one. Chapter 13. Hitler's greatest victory. For Hitler, the victory was historic. Germany had achieved what seemed impossible. The defeat of France was one of the greatest military victories in modern history. A nation that had defeated Germany in 1918 was now conquered. Hitler visited Paris. German propaganda celebrated the victory. The world watched in shock. Many believed Nazi Germany was unstoppable. But the victory also created overconfidence. Hitler believed his army was unbeatable. And that belief would eventually lead Germany toward disaster. Chapter 14. The biggest lesson of Blitzkrieg. The fall of France changed warfare forever. The lesson was not simply, tanks are powerful. The real lesson was, speed changes everything. A smaller force with better coordination can defeat a stronger enemy if it controls the battlefield. Information, communication, decision-making, adaptability. These became the weapons of modern warfare. The French defeat showed that preparation alone is not enough. A nation can have strong defenses, but if its strategy is wrong, those defenses can become useless. Chapter 15. The irony of history. But history has a strange way of changing. The same German strategy that defeated France in 1940 would eventually fail. In 1941, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa against the Soviet Union. The same ideas of speed and movement were used, but the battlefield was different. The distances were larger. The enemy was stronger, and Germany could not win quickly. The Blitzkrieg that created Hitler's greatest victory eventually became part of his downfall. Final chapter. The real story behind France's fall. France did not fall because its soldiers lacked courage. Thousands fought bravely. France did not fall because Germany had better weapons. It fell because Germany changed the rules of war. In 1940, the battlefield belonged to whoever could move faster, think faster, and adapt faster. The fall of France was not just a military defeat. It was a warning that history does not always belong to the strongest. Sometimes it belongs to the most prepared. 6 weeks. One campaign. One moment that changed the world forever. This was the story of why France fell in 6 weeks. Subscribe for more untold stories from World War II.